you for watching the video. It really means a lot to me. Right now I'm just laying down a base coat for my painting. Painting my sketchbook today, which is really fun. This is the first time I've been using acrylic paints in a while, so this is going to be exciting to try out. I just realized I have to be talking for 24 minutes, so I'm going to tell you some facts about paint, and especially acrylic paint. Did you know it's waterproof when it dries? Which that's pretty cool. Another fun fact, acrylic paint is one of the least toxic types of paints. Artists used to store their paint in animal bladders, which was really funny. Like if you need to go pee, just pee out paint. That'd be an odd way to create art. Here's another fun fact about acrylic paint. It only became available commercially for sale in the 50s. That's really odd. You'd think it'd be more available for people. Oh, here I am adding red. I totally forgot I filmed when I was adding red. There's me blending it out. The inventors of acrylic paint were Leonardo Boncour, I don't know if I pronounced that right, and Sam Golden, which is pretty interesting. What a fun name. Sam Golden, that would be such a cool name. I wish I had that name. This one's really exciting. Acrylic paint is flammable, under really hot fire or whatever, but it's flammable. How cool would that be? This one's also really interesting. Art used to be an Olympic event. How crazy is that? You have all your fighting and your gladiators, is some old guy painting. Oh, here am I sketching out the skull. That's what I'm painting on here, skull. I like skulls, they're so cool. Did you know that abstract art is the most complex art form? Which is really interesting. I understand it has a lot of depths in it. You gotta put so much emotion behind that. And it doesn't make all that much sense when you're seeing it, and that's the point of it. I'm not the best at abstract, but I really would love to get into it. It seems so fun. One thing my art teacher really emphasizes is large. People love large art, surreal art. If you're doing a portrait, you should do it super close, super zoomed in, all the details. And people love large art. They think the larger it is, the more the value is. Apparently, acrylic is the easiest for beginners, and apparently watercolor is the hardest, which is really surprising. I guess since it moves around so much, but I think that's part of the art form that's really interesting and fun. There's so much potential you could go with the movements it makes, and even if it goes someplace you don't want it to go, you just adapt. I think it's a really fun way to learn how to paint. One thing that I really hate is people who think art is just painting. I think that they don't understand it, but I feel like they should be able to accept it. Sculptors and musicians or people who do poetry, what are they called? Poets, I think. They're all art. Everything that uses your creativity and you put your creativity into it, and your thoughts and your emotions is art. And I feel like people need to understand that. And art isn't perfect. I don't understand why people expect it to be always super realistic. Abstract art is amazing art, and people don't value it as much, or people who aren't artists value it as much as they would realism, because it is not realistic, but it's so beautiful, and people who are so talented do it. It's amazing. I totally started to ramble. I'm starting painting the lightest colors on my skull. I noticed that everybody starts with their darkest colors. I don't understand that, but maybe I'll give it a shot. I shouldn't be so critical about that. I searched it up, and it says that it's a good idea for them to keep your darks thin and helps with illusion of depth, which is actually that makes much sense, since you want it to look, if you're aiming for realism, to look as realistic as possible. But as somebody who started with watercolors, it doesn't make sense for that medium, since it's such it's really hard to layer on top lighter colors since it's more translucent. But I understand for different mediums such as gouache and acrylic paints, and I believe oil paints is similar too. I believe at the moment I'm still adding the lighter color, and I'm just trying to cover the whole thing right now. Another fun fact about painting is that it's the earliest known oil painting was in the 14th century. That's pretty interesting. The first ever paintings recorded were by Homo neanderthals, by primitive men in the prehistoric area. They found traces of these paintings in Europe, Africa, and Asia. And they also sculpted, and they used art in their daily lives, which is pretty interesting. I think everybody should do that. Try to be as creative as they can in life. Acrylic paints were first developed in 1934. That's pretty interesting. I tried to look up some interesting facts about sculpting, but it's just giving me facts, how it's three-dimensional art, and there's two main methods, which is carving from a material or molding a material to become what you would like. Oh, here I'm adding in some of my darker shades, like in the sockets of the eyes, the nose, and where the temple is. Sculpting was said to begin in ancient Greece, which makes sense with their beautiful architecture. Sculptures are a more powerful piece of art due to its physical appearance and how you can see it from all angles as it's 3D. Did you know that watercolor was first created in China? That's pretty fun. And watercolor is called watercolor because it is mainly water. It's just activated with pigment. Here I'm defining all my other dark places, such as the ridges where our gums are, where our teeth go up, and where our jaw connects to the rest of our skull, and with the shadows in the back of the skull since the lighting's coming from the front into the back. Since I'm painting a skull, here's a fact about skulls. There are 8 bones that surround the brain: a frontal bone, 2 parietal bones, 2 temporal bones, 1 occipital bone, 1 side bone, and 1 ethmoid bone. And they make the bones that surround your skull and your face. Or there's 14 other bones that also make up the face. Here I am adding the color to the teeth, which were lighter than the rest of the skull, since that's the only part of our bones that we clean. Which is really funny, but it makes sense since we use them for eating constantly, and they're exposed to oxygen more often. Here's some facts about the human body in general. You blink around 20 times a minute. Your earwax is a type of sweat, and you produce around 40,000 liters of spit in your lifetime. How gross is that? You could swim in that. That's so horrible. What the hell? I had to process that last fact. That's so gross. Human brain can survive multiple minutes without oxygen. Oh, I'm just adding more detail to the teeth to show separation. And as you can see, I've added lighter bits to the eye sockets. Another fact: skin is the largest organ. Makes sense. All around us. Lungs aren't the same size, which makes sense too because your heart's there. Many body parts can repair themselves, which makes sense because binary fission, that's how your cells reproduce. It's just making exact copies of themselves and then splitting off. That's how all cells are made, including reproductive cells, except when they split into two exact copies, but then those copies split into half of themselves, which is pretty interesting how it basically goes through the same process for any like organ or bone in your body, and the same with your reproductive cells. Your bones regrow every 15 years. Really weird. Like at 30, you had 2 sets of bones. Like how crazy is that? Oh, putting more lights in the eye sockets here, because the eye sockets aren't just dark, because the light hits them at different angles and it shows the inside of them. Your fingernails grow 4 times as fast as your toenails grow. Really gross. Like, well, I guess it's better because you don't really want to cut your toenails all the time. They're just gross. Oh, putting more definition in the teeth again. As you can see, I put the darker spots where your jaw attaches to the rest of your face. Jaws are so weird. Apparently, babies are born with 300 bones, and adults only have 206. How are you born with 300 bones? That's crazy. Eyelashes last about 150 days. That is really weird. 150 days? I thought you'd have the same. Oh, I'm adding more light to the sockets and to the highlights, so where the light hits it straight head on, basically. Your brain can't feel pain or doesn't feel pain. Interesting. An adult bladder can hold up to 400 milliliters of liquid. That's really weird. Just defining the highlights there in the skull, you can see. Like the ridges of where the tooth comes up. Beards are the fastest growing hairs in the human body, and everyone has a unique smell, except for identical twins. They have the exact same smell. That's so weird. Is that why people are so comforted by the smell of loved ones? And how when people pass away, you don't wash like a certain pillow or sweater just to remind them of them? That's really interesting. This one's really fun. The fastest growing nail is on the middle finger. I guess that makes sense. It's always the longest. 60% of the human brain is made of fat. Your brain isn't fully formed until 25. The smallest organ in the body is a pineal gland, and it's just like your clock, your inner clock, and it regulates like the rhythm of your body. So I assume your heartbeat and how your organs work. Oh, here I'm adding like green shadows, I believe, or I did add green shadows already. Because it's not just all the pale whites and off-whites and browns. So I like golden color. That's such a fun color. Your liver is the second largest organ. It weighs around 3 to 3.5 pounds. It's located underneath your ribs and on top of your gallbladder, stomach, and intestine. Identical twins don't have the same fingerprint, which is odd since they have the same smell. The reason humans get addicted is because of a rush of dopamine caused by the addiction, which is interesting. Dopamine is just what makes you happy and feel good. Here I'm just fixing up the lines around my skull since I did go over more than I would have liked to. But because these addictions give them pleasure, they get into habits and continue to do it, thus causing the addiction, the repetitive of the wanting of what causes the dopamine rush. Addiction is a learned behavior, so if you are surrounded by people who are addicts, then you are more likely to become an addict. But I've also come in contact with other sources which says it does depend on genetic makeup. So I guess that means if your parents or some family member has that addiction, you are more likely to get it, but I believe it is not certain based on both of my sources. So if your parents have addictions, then you are more likely to be addicted to something. or have addictive personalities, so easily getting hooked onto mobile games, for an example. This is getting very off topic. Right now I'm just trying to define the shadow without it creeping into the middle of the skull too much. And I'm putting the lighter there to cover up the shadow while it's still there. I'm trying to blend the shadow in the back more smoothly, which is hard when it's dry. I'm not used to using acrylics, but this was a really fun experience, and I hope to do more of it. Here's a fun fact about paint. Gouache was one of the first paints ever used by humans. I think gouache is a lovely type of paint with its consistency, yet it being water soluble. Oh, here I am painting on a table, or something for the skull to be resting on. I chose blue because I thought it would work well with the yellow and red. I am aware that red is opposite of green, so it'd be its complementary color, but I do use green later on, and I thought that blue was a good compromise, especially since blue and yellow are complementary colors. So the blue table will really make the yellow on the teeth and jaw and the eye sockets really pop better, I believe. Fun fact about blue, blue is the most common favorite color of everybody. It's the most pleasing to our eye. Having blue eyes is a genetic mutation, so if you have blue eyes like me, then that's just a gene mutating. Did you know that men and women see color differently? Which is interesting. Females tend to have longer wavelength, so they see warmer colors such as red and orange and yellow different than men. The color pink is soothing to nerves and often is used in anger management. The color red makes you thirsty because it raises your blood pressure. How odd is that? The color purple is associated with wealth and rich and power. Light blue makes you dizzy, and it's most likely to trigger phobia, migraine attacks, and other symptoms of chronic conditions. The color red makes you tired because it increases the production of melatonin. You can buy melatonin to help you go to sleep, actually, in little pills. It's really powerful. Knocks you right out. Apparently, red can cause a lot of things. One of the things it can cause is anxiety. And it's one of the most stressful colors to decorate with, which is ironic, since red is supposed to help you sleep and makes you thirsty and hungry. Another ironic thing is that red and yellow also make you feel uncomfortable. How odd is that? When you're eating, you would like to feel safe, especially if you compare us to wild animals. We have the same instincts as them, where we'd like to be safe while we're eating. The glue on this table is taking a long time. Sorry about that. I guess I should tell you to like and subscribe, so do that, I guess. It meant a lot to me. Fun fact, the Mona Lisa doesn't have eyebrows, though she did at one point. Just over time, they wore off. Here's another odd fact about the Mona Lisa. Apparently, her smile isn't really smiling because it wasn't genuine. Oh, here I'm going in with the green for the shadows. I thought it'd be a good idea, especially since it complements the red, I believe. The Mona Lisa was once thought as a self-portrait. Going back to abstract art, here's some fun facts about that. It really began in the 1900s, and especially in New York. Abstract art does not represent real things, more like emotions and ideas. Normally, abstract art is in larger sizes, especially when you think bigger is better, worth more money. Oh, here I'm adding a little black, I believe, into the table thing. I think it's a cloth at this point. The value of abstract art is really the ability for the artist to put their emotions into it. The oldest abstract art found is around 32,000 years old and 39,000 years old. Abstract art stimulates your brain and makes it more creative and imaginative, which that's really good. That's a great thing to have. The first female abstract artist was Hilma af Klint, a Swedish woman, who is known as one of the first abstract artists. Here's a fun fact about oil paint. It takes 3 to 6 months for it to dry, and it depends on the thickness and how much layering you've done on the painting. Oil paint can't really stick to glass or dry in glass, which is pretty interesting if you think about it. Oil paint is illegal in 6 states of the United States because of the pollution it causes to the land and air. Oh, here I am adding black into my cloth that my skull is sitting on. Here's some facts about surrealism, which is a type of art. Some people often get mixed up for abstract art, where surrealism is actual things in ways you would not expect them to be, where abstract art is just emotion. Surrealism stood for freedom, similar to abstract art, where other artists did not recognize them as artists, even though they were. Where abstract art is your emotions and your subconscious, surrealism is a mix between your subconscious and the real world, sort of blending them together. Surrealism was founded by André Benoit in Paris in 1924. Surrealism actually started as literature, as the creative mind expressing itself through stories, then transitioned into artworks. Oh, here I am painting off the tape because I'm finally done the painting. Surrealism really represented individuality and the subconscious mind of somebody trying to express their creativity through something that they saw as themselves. I feel like we've been talking too much about art. Here's some facts about animals, since they're fun. Hummingbirds are the only birds that can fly backwards. Crocodiles can't stick their tongues out, and starfish don't have a brain. Slugs have 4 noses. How crazy is that? And only female mosquitoes bite. Polar bear's skin is black, actually, which is fun. The only mammal capable of flight is the bat. Here's a funny one. Ostrich's eyes are bigger than its brain. Oh, here I am just adding, I just felt like adding some fun little flecks onto it. So that's there. It sort of looks like bushes or leaves or flowers or something like that, which is fun. Here's another fact about hummingbirds. Some can lay less than a penny, and dragonflies can see in all directions at the same time. How cool is that? Shrimps' hearts are in their head. Like, how crazy is that? It's physically impossible for a pig to look up to the sky. Dogs and cats have unique nose prints, like how we have our unique fingerprints. That's so adorable. I love that one. Here's another cute one. Rats are ticklish and they laugh when they're tickled. How funny is that? Opposite of a shrimp, cockroaches' brains are in their body, and only half a dolphin's brain goes to sleep at a time. Here's a little gross one. Fleas can jump 350 times its body length. Like, how crazy is that? How high they can go. You might want to watch out for termites, because termites compared to human there's 10 termites for every 1 human. That's so freaky. Here's a weird one about dogs. They have 3 eyelids. How odd is that? A group of cats is called a clouder. That's so cute. Pandas do handstands while they go pee, which is really gross. That'd be really weird. Killer whales are technically dolphins. How fun is that? Oh, here I am just putting on the Mod Podge to make sure everything stays there. Don't want it getting bumped or anything. I hope you liked this art. Really appreciate you guys watching. Okay, here are the last facts. Penguins can shoot poop bombs. Really gross. Cats can taste the air. And tigers' pee can smell like buttered popcorn. Thank you so much for watching. Please go check out my other videos. I am trying to post constantly soon, so stay tuned for that. I really hope you like my art, and I'd really appreciate it if you do subscribe and like, and maybe try to show this to your friends. And I really appreciate you for listening to my endless babbling and my fun facts. It means the world to me. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this, and please come again. Try looking at my other videos. It'd mean the world to me. So here's me just finishing up the Mod Podge. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Please tell me if you guys want to see more videos of me just telling you facts about art and many other subjects. And here's the finished project. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.